Theodore Robert Bundy was an American serial killer who took advantage of, and got rid of numerous young women and girls during the 1970s and possibly earlier. After more than a decade of denials, he confessed to 30 offings committed in 7 states between 1974 and 1978. Morbid facts: the scariest things about animals and objects. Did you know sloths move so slowly that algae grow on their fur, making them a moving ecosystem? Or that the Japanese pufferfish, a delicacy, can kill you with one wrong cut because it contains a poison 1,200 times deadlier than cyanide? Inanimate objects can be deadly too. Some old clocks and antiques are radioactive, emitting dangerous levels of radon gas. And did you know that mirrors can harbor bacteria for weeks, making them a potential breeding ground for disease? In January 2023, 2 helicopters collided off the Gold Coast near SeaWorld in Australia, killing 4 people and injuring several others. One helicopter, which had just taken off, ended up crashing. The other, which was returning, managed to land with heavy damage. The victims included a British couple who were holidaying in Queensland at the time, and an Australian woman who died. A 10-year-old boy, Nicholas, was among the seriously injured survivors. Police arrested Kimberly Ann Hawkins after she stole the mobility scooter of 63-year-old Neil Shadwick, a Parkinson's sufferer, and left him to die in sub-zero temperatures in Gloucestershire, England. She was jailed for 6 years for manslaughter and 6 months to run consecutively for other offenses. In 1936, Tokyo hosted a gas mask parade, showcasing Japan's readiness for chemical warfare. The eerie spectacle underscored the looming threat of conflict and the chilling reality of modern warfare's potential horrors, casting a shadow over the city streets. The Doolittle Raid in 1942 was the U.S. response to Pearl Harbor, a daring bombing mission on Tokyo. While it boosted American morale, it had horrifying consequences. Of the 80 crew members, several were captured, some were executed or tortured by Japanese forces. This bold strike came at a steep price, marking a grim chapter in wartime history. In June 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, a brutal invasion of the Soviet Union. Within months, millions of Soviet soldiers were offed or captured. Entire armies were surrounded and annihilated. The horrors didn't end there. POWs faced starvation, torture, and execution. Civilians were caught in the crossfire, with entire villages burned to the ground. The scale of death and destruction was unimaginable. The Soviet Union teetered on the brink of collapse, but the worst was still to come, as the invasion marked the beginning of a war, fought with terrifying brutality on both sides. 4 haunting cold cases that were finally solved. The Golden State Killer terrorized California for decades, committing at least 13 offings and 50 rapes. He was finally caught in 2018 using DNA from a genealogy website. In the Grim Sleeper case, Lonnie Franklin Jr. was caught in 2010 after 25 years of targeting women in Los Angeles. The offing of a 9-year-old girl in Indiana went unsolved for 30 years until DNA found at the scene matched a truck driver in 2018. The Bear Brook murders were cracked after 35 years, revealing a serial offer hiding in plain sight. On January 28, 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart 73 seconds into its flight, claiming the lives of all 7 crew members aboard. The spacecraft broke apart at an altitude of 46,000 feet above the Atlantic Ocean, near Cape Canaveral, Florida. Some crew members were believed to have survived the initial explosion, but tragically lost their lives when the capsule violently crashed into the sea. On April 6, 1893, Andy Bowen and Jack Burke fought the longest-gloved boxing match in history at the Olympic Club in New Orleans, Louisiana. The fight lasted 7 hours and 19 minutes over 110 rounds. Bowen had originally scheduled the fight with another opponent. However, after dropping out of the fight, Jack Burke, who was the latter's trainer, fought the bout instead. It was reported that the fight went on for so long that the spectators who stayed to watch the fight had fallen asleep in their seats. Hurricane Sandy struck the east coast of the United States in October 2012, leaving a trail of destruction. With winds reaching 115 miles per hour, it caused widespread flooding, power outages, and billions of dollars in damage. Coastal communities, particularly in New York and New Jersey, faced extensive devastation, highlighting vulnerabilities to extreme weather events. The Battle of Stalingrad, which lasted from 1942 to 1943, was one of the bloodiest battles in history, with nearly 2 million casualties. The brutal winter, starvation, and relentless urban warfare created a hellish landscape. Both Soviet and German soldiers endured unimaginable horrors, with entire divisions annihilated and civilians caught in the crossfire. The LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans harbors a gruesome history. In the 1830s, owner Madame Delphine LaLaurie tortured and mutilated enslaved people in her attic. After a fire exposed her horrific crimes, she fled, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable horror. Today, the mansion is rumored to be haunted by the tormented spirits of her victims, with eerie sightings and unexplained phenomena adding to its terrifying legacy. True crime documentaries expose the darkest corners of humanity. One chilling case is The Staircase, where novelist Michael Peterson was accused of killing his wife. The evidence? Her body at the bottom of the stairs. Was it a fall or murder? Then there's Don't F with Cats, where online sleuths track down a killer who started by torturing animals. Finally, Making a Murderer follows Stephen Avery, who was wrongfully convicted, freed, then charged with a brutal murder. These real-life thrillers blur the line between justice and horror, showing how terrifying the truth can be. Carly Gregg, the teenager who fatally shot her mother and attempted to off her stepfather, has been sentenced to life in prison. The sentence was handed down to the 15-year-old on Friday, September 20th, 2024, after jurors in Rankin County, Mississippi, found her guilty on all counts, including first-degree murder. Gregg was age 14 at the time of the shooting on March 19, 2024, in which prosecutors argued she killed her 40-year-old mother, Ashley Smiley, with the mother's gun inside the family's home. Later, the teenager lied in wait in an apparent ambush designed to shoot and kill her stepfather, 39-year-old Heath Smiley, when he arrived home. Carly then fled, but was later arrested near the home. Larry Tesler, also known as the computer scientist behind Cut, Copy and Paste, has died at the age of 74. Born in 1945 in New York, Tesler studied computer science at Stanford. He began his professional journey with Xerox's Palo Alto Research Center in 1973. During his stint with Xerox, he developed the Cut, Copy, and Paste, a functionality which will go on to become one of the most commonly used features on computers. This is a photograph of true crime writer Ann Rule working in her office. Rule once worked at a suicide prevention phone service. Rule didn't know it at the time, but sitting next to her, working the other phone, was a young serial killer named Ted Bundy. She later wrote a book about her bizarre connection with Bundy, titled The Stranger Beside Me. Aileen Wuornos is one of the most terrifying and morbid figures in U.S. criminal history. Between 1989 and 1990, she offed 7 men in Florida, damaging them at point-blank range. Wuornos, who exchanged money for certain favors, claimed she offed them in self-defense, alleging the men had tried to attack her. However, the brutality of the offings told a darker story. Her cold, emotionless demeanor during trial and interviews shocked the public. Wuornos was executed in 2002, but her chilling story of a female serial offer who preyed on men continues to fascinate and horrify to this day. On March 31st, 1995, Tejano music star Selena Quintanilla Perez was tragically shot and offed by her fan club president, Yolanda Saldivar, in a Corpus Christi motel. Selena was just 23 years old. Selena had confronted Saldivar over embezzling money, and despite their close relationship, Saldivar decided to pull the trigger. What's even scarier is that Selena managed to run to the lobby for help, but she collapsed and passed away shortly after from red liquid loss. The world lost a rising star, and her untimely offing shocked fans, forever marking her as a tragic figure in music history. In 2016, fitness coach Missy Bevers was found dead at Creekside Church in Texas. Security footage from shortly before the incident shows an individual in police tactical gear, whom authorities believe is responsible for the murder. Few developments have been made since the investigation commenced, and the assailant remains at large. Throughout the course of live theater, there have been a number of cases of actors accidentally taking their own lives during scenes. In 2016, actor Raphael Schumacher tragically hung himself while reenacting a hanging scene on stage. The stunt left him in a coma, and shortly afterward, doctors declared him clinically deceased.